When I first started dabbling with making things in metal, my friend Chris said the main difference when you're used to working with wood is that engineering is slow. And he was right. Very slow. Very, very slow. Mind you, doesn't help that we're both down with colds. And the garlic scapes need picking every couple of days, and I had to go to the dentist, which was no fun at all. And I spent a while painting the house. But never mind, progress has been made, and you might find it interesting. So here we go. I decided it was all very well drawing pictures of the locomotive in my head and on the computer, but I had to make some real life decisions about the layout before I could go any further. One of the most important decisions is where the engine sits on the chassis. Now I'm using 3-inch channel and drilled some holes for the big axle bearings with the mag drill. Ooh. I just picked a place more or less at random on the frames. I mean, they're too long, overly long, and I have to cut them down, but I don't know where yet. I'm not sure where exactly the axles will go because there's no plan. I can always drill more holes out later. It's hard to believe, but this little engine weighs 130 kilos apparently. 130 kilos, that's the same as a very large person. But it's so small. It came with the trolley, but I won't be needing that. Now, here's an important decision. Does the wheel axle go above the chassis frame or below it? You see, at this stage, the whole chassis assembly could be flipped right over. Now, if the axle is above, then the frame would be lower, so the engine would be lower, which would be a good thing. So I tried that first. See that? On the face of it, the engine fits so snugly between the wheels, doesn't it? Perfect. But there's a snag in the form of the oil filler port thing that sticks out. And it sticks out quite a long way. So if I put the engine right over the axle, as I'd like to do really, the oil filler port would be practically inside the wheel. And that's not great, I think. It actually reads oil here, okay? It sounds a bit like there should be a question mark after the K. And perhaps there should be similar instructions in other places. Water here, okay? Turn handle here, okay? So if the engine can't go there, and it can't hang right out at the front because it's too long really, then what if I bring it closer to the middle? Not ideal, because that's where the rest of the transmission's going to be, obviously. And there's another snag. The starting handle sort of lines up with the wheel flanges. So I'm in danger of damaging my knuckles trying to start it. So I flipped the chassis right over, so the axle's underneath now and the frame is higher, just to see what changes. Now I could gain a little movement away from the middle of the loco towards the axle, but the engine would be so much higher, I decided it wasn't worth it. Much more likely to topple over if it hopped tracks, and that would be disastrous. So went back to the original arrangement and set the oil filler port just forward of the wheels, so it's accessible but also protected. Now that still leaves the problem of the crank handle. I think I'm going to have to extend it, make a new crank handle, one that's longer and sticks out beyond the wheels. But that's going to need support, so an extra hole through a frame, I guess. But at least I have the start of a plan. So meanwhile, I started taking off the pulley. I'm going to replace it with a smaller V-belt pulley, only this one didn't want to come off. I spent hours looking for my pulley puller. I know I have one somewhere, but it might not be big enough anyway. Now, see this? It's a trailer hub, I think. I used it a couple of times already for different things, and the last time it was used on my homemade bandsaw, and now I think it might work as a new drive wheel hub. Set above the pulley that I'm trying to get off. My thinking is I could push harder against this with the friction wheel if I need to, instead of pushing it against the engine 5 wheel. And it's an easy way to start gearing down the speed. After last week's experiment, I realised gearing is going to be crucial if this thing is going to work. But the main reason for installing this is so I can put it in a better position than the engine pulley is at the moment, because it's way down near the chassis and awkward to connect to. Well, that's what I'm thinking. I don't really know if it's going to work. There's only one way to find out, so I made a frame to mount this new hub on. Now I'm just tacking it all together for now, because I'm sure to do it wrong. So just some welding tacks here and there. The mag drill is brilliant and very useful, but only if the drill bits are sharp. And I haven't been able to sharpen them properly yet. My friction wheel assembly that I showed you last week is too short now, but I'll get on to that in a bit. Meanwhile, I got a gas refill and managed to take my eyebrows off. But not the pulley. So I just left it to get really hot, which surely would shift it. You'd think so, wouldn't you? That bolt that you can see has been loosened, of course, and lots of spray oil has been applied. I'm just gently trying to ease the pulley forwards and off the shaft, using a wood splitting wedge, and talking nicely and gently persuading gently, heating up and cooling down, knocking out and knocking in. Now it's hard to say this, but this went on for more than 2 days. I'd spend half an hour on it and then give up and search again for the puller, and then come back later and give it another go. And so my time in purgatory was spent contemplating the fiery flames and the ringing of hammers on steel. Oh, what foolish games we humans play. I was on the point of actually making a new puller when Ashley turned up, and he noticed an extra grub screw under the first bolt. What?
No, but that, you see, this thing was in there, and that they put that on top of the grub screw. What a mean thing to do. What is... Okay.
You would have thought that that would make all the difference, wouldn't you? But no, because the second glove screw wasn't actually doing anything. It was just lurking down there at the bottom of the hole like a toad. Like a toad at the bottom of a well. Lurking. So we just carried on heating and knocking and knocking and heating. And I'm just going to skip ahead now to the important part. Which eventually arrived sometime later, and we'll speak no more of the hours spent at this strange entertainment.
Right, no excuse now. Come on, you come. Come on. Coming. 25 millimeters. Fully dilated. Ooh! No, I can see it moving. Oh yes. Oh yes. Come on then. Hooray! Nearly. Hooray!
And the key just fell out.
Of course, nothing holding it in.
No.
Silly thing. Why are you so reluctant to come out?
Not so much in there.
Wasn't even that rusty. Okay, excellent. Kind of. Eventually.
With the pulley off, I was able to concentrate on the new drive wheel. I cut the lugs off the hub and cut a circle out of 6mm steel. Now I just needed to line them up and join them together. And of course the hub face isn't flat, that would be too easy, so I machined a wooden disc with the correct rebate in it as a filler plate. I'm using countersunk bolts for the job, but I don't have a countersink bit, so I had to use a combination of other bits to get the fit close. A little adjustment and these bolts could end up nice and flush. It's a little awkward now to get the engine in place, but when it's there, the pulley lines up quite neatly and a V-belt just sits on the outside of the trailer hub. Now I could leave it like that, maybe with a slightly tighter belt, but it does seem a good place to put in a clutch, doesn't it? For that, I needed a longer belt, of course, and some sort of flat wheel that could be moved in and out to push against the belt. Now, any of these might have worked for my collection of interesting things, but there's not much space in there, so I went for the smallest option I could think of. just a couple of ball races on a bolt. But that should do, shouldn't it? So I set about building a frame for that, drilled holes in the right place, but but only after I drilled them in the wrong place first, of course. This is just a mechanism to push against the belt without risking my fingers and keeping it all fairly robust and simple and solid. It will need a lever eventually, but I don't know where I'll be sitting yet, so for now there isn't a lever. So then I brought back my friction wheel, having extended its legs and hinged it at the bottom. And added 2 springs to keep pressure on the drive wheel. But actually that wasn't enough pressure. So I moved them up a bit, the springs, and that still wasn't enough. So I tightened them up by another inch or so on both sides, and that made a difference. Time to try it out. Okay, wobbles everywhere. Partly caused by the tacked together frame, which isn't very solid, but mostly caused by the friction wheel not being round anymore because of last week's rubbing and sliding. But it's good enough to see what's happening, and that friction wheel is spinning from 0 to around 350 RPM in either direction, which is good, isn't it? But does it have any pulling force? Time to try the drag test again. If you remember, last time it wouldn't pull the log, but this time, woohoo! Now that's a relief. After all that farting about, I'd be very miserable if it couldn't drag a log on a level floor. But it can. Now there's so much more to do, but I'm definitely in the log dragging business already, aren't I? What fun!
Alright, that's something.
Yeah, that was easy.